21. My head starts aching during the philosophy final. It's a stress migraine, induced by this obnoxiously hard test. I curse Professor Aldana in my head. Next to me, Geoffrey is writing furiously, his tongue sticking out of the corner of his mouth. And on the other side, Alexis alternates between jotting down answers and sitting thoughtfully, her pen tapping her chin. I squint at her paper, but it's too hard to read her miniature writing. Geoffrey doesn't like Alexis, even if he won't verbalize his feelings. A month ago, they had a tense standoff during a discussion in class. The topic was fate, free will, and human nature. Geoffrey had taken up the position that there was no such thing as fate or destiny. Alexis argued the opposite. "You're saying that everything is predetermined?" Geoffrey said. "Then what's the point of anything? Why should I bother coming to class, studying, doing any of these things if all of this is set in stone anyway?" The other men in the class murmured in unison. "I'm not saying that the choices you make are meaningless. You're missing the point entirely," Alexis said. "The choices you make absolutely matter. Put it this way, the major events in your life are predetermined, but the way you reach those events, the paths you take, those are shaped by your choices. Maybe your destiny is to become a doctor someday, Geoffrey, but the choices you make now determine whether it's going to happen in 10 years or 30. Geoffrey snapped his mouth shut. His face was growing red, and it was obvious that he was agitated by what Alexis had said. "I'm not missing any point," he grumbled. "I could go out right now and jump in front of a moving car, and that would be the end of your vapid argument about fate and destiny." At that, Professor Aldana interjected, putting an end to the discussion. Alexis' words, however, kept repeating in my mind. For so long I had succumbed to the idea that I was powerless against my palja, that all I could do was strap myself in for the ride, but Alexis might be right. Sure, there are limitations on what I can or can't do. I mean, I'm not going to be the president or a billionaire, but there are thousands of other things I can be. Unfortunately, since Geoffrey and Alexis have been avoiding each other pointedly, whenever I bring up Alexis to Geoffrey, his eyes narrow. He doesn't reference her directly, but he'll make snide comments like, "I bet her school didn't have a debate club," or "It must be so nice to live in a fantasy world where you believe everything just happens for a reason." Alexis is much nicer when I mention him, though the underlying message is the same. She simply changes the subject. Between my two new friends, I'm caught in a tenuous situation. I can't ever bring them together in a room, not to study, not to eat, not to do anything. Admittedly, I'm much closer to Geoffrey than I am to Alexis, but whenever I'm with her, I want to sit next to her for as long as possible, even if we are doing nothing, even if by the end I feel inexplicably nervous and disoriented. Burying my face in my hands, I try to envision the textbook. I was just reading it this morning. The section about women's rights blurs in and out of my vision. I press harder against my eyes, feeling their firmness under the thin skin of my eyelids. There's a bright flash of blue in the fuzzy darkness. I concentrate on it until it materializes, taking the shape of an eye. One of George's perfect eyes. It floats just out of my reach. If I stretch, I can grab it, squeeze it between my fingertips. I'm so close. Jiwon, my eyes fly open. I'm back in the lecture hall with Geoffrey and Alexis next to me. My paper, still blank, has fallen to the floor. Alexis's hand is on my arm, her touch gentle. Are you okay? I stand abruptly. The entire room turns to watch. I have to go, I mumble. I feel sick. Professor Aldana nods at me sympathetically. As I walk to the front of the hall and shove my paper toward her, my stomach does a funny swoop when I realize that I am probably going to fail. She whispers, "Get some rest." She feels sorry for me, I can tell, and I hate it. I hate her and her stupid exam, and I hate George and his awful blue eyes, and I hate everything and everyone. Who am I becoming? What's happening to me? In high school, I had the third highest GPA in my graduating class, and before getting to college, I had never received a grade lower than an A minus. I sit on a bench facing one of the school's libraries and try to shake the feeling of despair lodged deep in my chest. Here's the thing. Now that Appa's gone, I have to try even harder. At least when he was around, he could help support Oma and Jiyun. But now, if I fail out of college, my life, and theirs, is over. There is no trust fund, no plan B, no time for me to figure out a secret talent. My mother can't support me, since she can barely support herself. It's up to me to get a good job and make enough money to help her get by. I've always been jealous of the kids who have never had to deal with this crushing pressure. They have no idea how good they have it, how lucky they are. Often I find myself wondering, what is it like to live freely, to live a life untethered, without having to be responsible for everyone around you? There's an hour before the bus arrives. I step into the library to try and distract myself. It's grand with intricately laid brickwork all along the walls, a checkered tile floor, and ornate chandeliers that hang high over our heads. The air is perfumed with the scent of paper and leather. I take a deep whiff before wandering over to the computers. Only one is available. I sit down and use my school ID to reserve it. I lean back in the chair, peering at the students around me. They are focused, paying me no attention. I huddle in front of my screen and search for images of blue eyes. On their own, the pictures don't satisfy me. I need more. I Google, how firm are blue eyes? The result that comes up is completely unrelated to my question. Frowning, I try, how do blue eyes feel compared to brown eyes? Still nothing. I glance at the girl in the chair next to me. I know I'm not doing anything wrong, but I'm nervous. I'm certain that blue eyes would taste amazing, so much better than the brown ones, especially George's eyes. I have no scientific evidence to prove this, but to me, there's nothing appetizing about brown. Brown is the mud scraped off the bottom of your shoe, or the muck left at the bottom of the sink when you're done washing the dishes. Brown is the color of decay. Of course, I would never actually want to eat George's eyes. I tell myself that it's more of a morbid curiosity. All eyes are pretty much the same, regardless of their color or to whom they belong to. Why wouldn't they be? They all have the same purpose, to see. According to my search, the eyeball is an almost spherical shape. It's composed of the cornea, the iris, the lens, the macula, the pupil, and the retina. The retina, which is connected to the brain by the optic nerve, is the part that does the seeing, sending images to our brain. In between the lens and the retina, there is a transparent, colorless, jelly-like substance that fills up two-thirds of the eyeball and gives it its shape. Excuse me? There's a tap on my shoulder. I whirl round, exiting out of the window at the same time. Another student hovers behind me, his arms crossed. His eyes are a vivid blue. My stomach lurches. Has he seen my screen? Does he know what I'm doing, what I'm thinking? Can I help you? I ask nervously. Sorry, but I think your time on the computer is up, he says. I booked it for 1 p.m. Oh, I'm so sorry. I stand up, collecting my things. My phone tumbles to the floor. He bends down to pick it up, handing it to me with a smile. Mesmerized, I take it from him, but I can't stop staring. He looks at me confused, and I force myself to look away before hurrying out the door. I've missed the bus. I walk to the stop in a daze. I don't remember anything about the boy in the library except for his eyes. It's bizarre. I can't tell you how tall he was or the shape of his face or even what he was wearing, but I can tell you for certain that his irises were the exact shade of the morning glories my father loved so much. 22. To celebrate the end of my first quarter, Oma cooks up a feast. Korean style sashimi that she fillets herself with fish purchased from the supermarket, complete with a spicy gochujang dipping sauce. Salmon heads fried in a sizzling pan. Gairan mari, a rolled egg omelette with bits of carrot, green onion and ham. Bubbling doenjang jjigae filled with soft tofu and zucchini. Smoke unfurls in the apartment, setting off the alarm in the kitchen. She fans it anxiously as George pokes his head out of her room. What's all this noise? Nothing, nothing. Dinner is ready. Come eat. Ji-yoon gags when she sees the salmon heads sitting on the table. Oma cuts her off before she can open her mouth. I don't want to hear it from you today, Ji-yoon, she says sternly. If you don't like it, you don't have to eat it. They were on sale. My sister sits next to me, pouting. George laughs at her expression and mocks her, his lower lip pushed out. Tonight, he is wearing a blue shirt that makes his eyes appear even brighter. To avoid looking at him, I stare at the fish heads, at their gaping mouths. Their sharp little teeth gleam under the harsh kitchen lights. The fish are watching me, and George too, and I am feeling hot and panicky when suddenly he says, did you know that the Chinese eat fish eyes for good luck? I ate them every day when I was in China. It's not just the Chinese, Ji-yoon grumbles. You're going to have to fight Unni and Mom for them. George grins. I love the eye. It's delicious, at least to those of us who appreciate Asian culture. He picks up his chopsticks with one hand and positions them in between his fingers. Before I can react, He knocks mine off the table. They fall to the ground with a clatter. Hey, what gives? I have no problem fighting for the eyes, but since you have nothing to grab them with, looks like you're out of the game, JW. He maneuvers the first eye out from the socket and drops it into his mouth. We watch, frozen and silent. The only sound we can hear is the wet squelching of George's mouth, sucking the meat off the eyeball. Instead of chewing or swallowing, he puts his fingers in his mouth and pulls it out. It gleams, wet with his saliva, all traces of skin and fat and flesh gone. If you still want it, you can have it, he says playfully. I even cleaned it for you. I shudder. Sweat drips down my back. You want it. You want it so badly. I move my mouth, but my voice doesn't work. The words are lodged in my throat. As if sensing my discomfort, Ji-yoon swoops in and pushes George's hand out of my face. What's wrong with you? She snaps. The smile slides off his face. You're disgusting. If you're going to eat it, just choke it down and be done with it before I vomit all over this table. Are you okay? Ji-yoon asks, putting her hand against my forehead. I'm fine. I push her hand away. She's hurt. I can tell, but I don't care. All I can see is George, his fingers around the slippery fish eyeball, taunting me. Are you sure? She asks. She smooths out the bedsheet and fluffs up her pillow. You've been acting weird lately. How so? I cross my arms and squint at her. I'm trying to stay calm, but inside my chest, my heart is hammering. What does she know? I don't know. You seem not like yourself. Distracted. Plus, you haven't been sleeping well. You keep thrashing around in your sleep and waking me up. I didn't want to say anything because I knew you'd feel bad, but she reaches for my pillow to fluff it for me. I'm fine, I snap, snatching it back from her hands. You don't need to worry about me. That's not your job. And I can do that myself, thanks. Her hands drifts down to her ankle. Normally I would stop her, but today I let her scratch and scratch until she's bleeding. We crawl into bed without speaking to each other. She lays facing the wall, I face the door. Our backs are touching. I want to switch sides with her, to listen to George sleep. But I'm too afraid to ask her. I'm afraid that if I do, she'll figure out the truth. 23. Grades are released a few days into winter break. As expected, I failed philosophy, but I am stunned by the rest of my marks. Art History 11, Medieval Art, C. Pass. Atmospheric and Oceanic Studies 1, Air Pollution, D. No pass. English 72A, Introduction to Fiction, B-, pass. Philosophy 4, Philosophical Analysis of Contemporary Moral Issues, D. No pass. My GPA is below 2.0, and I've been placed on academic probation. If I don't raise my grades next quarter, I'll lose my scholarship, or worse. I sit at the family computer in the living room and refresh the page again and again and again. This can't be real. This can't be happening, right? Yet somehow the letters remain there, indelible. no matter how hard I try to make them disappear. The sunlight streams in through the balcony window, infusing our apartment with a golden light. I'm all alone. Jiyun is out with her friends, Amma is at work, and George is out doing whatever it is that he does. I feel a twinge in my temples. At first, it's distant, but with every shuddering breath I take, the pain grows stronger and stronger. My vision goes red hot and blurry. I stare at the wall where the sun is casting reflections across the white expanse. There's a glowing orange sphere that stretches and shifts, growing larger and larger. A miniature sun, right here in our apartment, round like an eye, like George's eye. It's so bright that it hurts, but I can't look away. Punish yourself. It swallows me whole, consumes me until I feel nothing but agony. My heart beats in time with the throbbing pain in my temples. Thump, thump, thump. I turn away and lay my head down on the table. The wood is cool against my forehead. I close my eyes and wait for the pain to subside. A few minutes later I lift my head up. To my surprise, the entire apartment is dark. The sun has set, and through the blinds I can see the full moon hanging low in the sky. Behind me I see a dark figure spread out on the couch. "Hello?" I whisper, suddenly afraid. "George, is that you?" I creep toward the shadow. It is George. He is fast asleep, his mouth wide open. Drool trickles out from the corner of his lips. I stare at it with a mixture of disgust and confusion. It's bizarre. I didn't even hear him come in. How long was I asleep? I hover above him, studying his face. Even in the darkness I can see the moles dotted across his cheeks, the smoothness of his eyelids, the the sliver of white underneath them. I want to pull them back. I want to see, to touch. I want. I want the crunch of cartilage in my mouth. I want the saltiness of blood on my tongue. Something is nestled in the carpet at my feet. It's one of our kitchen knives. Oma once cut herself so badly with it that she had to go to the emergency room to get stitches. The moonlight catches its dull edge, and I pick it up without thinking. It's heavy in my hands. Kill him. Hey, wake up, JW. My eyes snap open. I'm in the apartment in front of the computer, my forehead resting against the desk. My right hand is clutching the mouse tightly. It's still daytime. Everything is ablaze with light, and George peers into my face, the blue of his eyes startling. His hand is on my shoulder. I take it off. "Don't touch me." He lets go, his hand falling limply to his side. "What? Why are you upset with me?" he asks, offended. "I didn't do anything wrong. I woke you up because you were having a nightmare. You were yelling in your sleep." My rage boils over. It's his fault. Everything. He's the reason I keep having nightmares. He's the reason I'm failing out of school. Worst of all, he's the reason my father will never come back. I stand up and shove him, beating my fists against his chest. He grabs my wrists and squeezes them so tightly that I cry out. What the hell, JW? What's gotten into you today? Fuck you, I scream. Tears are coursing down my face. Fuck you. Who do you think you are, my dad? And my name isn't JW, for fuck's sake, it's G1. The least you can do is say it properly. He's so shocked that he releases me. I stumble backward, clutching at my wrists. They are bright red and angry from his grip, the imprint of his fingers clearly visible on my skin. I storm away from him and slam the door of my room so hard that the entire apartment shakes. Next to Ji-yoon's stupid bobbleheads, there's a framed picture of our family. It's one of the very few photographs we have together from our trip to New York City and Niagara Falls. We look happy, almost unbelievably so. Were we ever like that? Is it really us in that image, smiling, our arms linked together? My father smiles up at me. Maybe it's just the photograph, but he looks fragile, weak. I pick it up and hurl it into the trash can, listening to the shattered glass raining down against the metal. 24. Sometime after she returned home, Ji-yoon retrieved the picture from the trash. The top layer of the photograph is still scratched but otherwise unharmed, and the happy faces now stare at me from the desk. I hear her outside now, talking to George. For once she doesn't sound like she's antagonizing him. There's a quiet knock at the door. It's Summa. She pokes her head in. Can we talk? I guess. She sits on the edge of the bed and runs her hands across the blanket, her calloused fingers catching on the loose ends. I'm nervous, even though I probably don't have to be. My mother is rarely angry. She's more of the sad and weepy type. It was my father who had the fiery temper, who would go into unshakable rages. On the day that the dry cleaning business closed, Appa punched a row of holes in the drywall of the house. Amma, on the other hand, locked herself in the bathroom and cried. George told me everything. She tucks her hair behind her ear. The nail on her index finger is broken, the edges ragged. She's shy about her hands because they are stained and rough from years of hard work at dry cleaner and grocery store. Every time I see them, I feel small. I feel like I am responsible for every unhappiness and injustice she has ever experienced. Why couldn't I have been born a boy? Someone strong and confident who would be capable of taking care of her. If I had $1 million, I'd buy her a house and take her to get her nails done every week. She looks so sad that I feel an overwhelming sense of shame. I'm selfish. I'm selfish for upsetting her, for not taking control of my own emotions. I focus on her hand, staring intensely so that I don't have to look at her face. My vision blurs. I raised you better than this, she says, slowly. When he told me the story, I was shocked. I asked him, are you sure it was my G1 you were talking to? I couldn't believe it. My eyes fill with tears. I hang my head. Droplets fall onto the bedspread, flitting down like rain. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. I know this is hard, she says, her voice soft. It probably seems so sudden, with everything that happened between me and your father. And George, well, I understand. She grasps my hand and squeezes tightly. But George isn't going anywhere. He has promised to stick around, and I need you and Ji-yoon to get along with him. I've already spoken to her, and she has promised me that she'll be nicer to him. You can try too, right? For me? The dream from the afternoon is still fresh. I want to say no, that I can't be nice to George, that what she's asking for is impossible, but the anguish in her expression is gone, replaced by a hopefulness that leaves her so delicately blooming that I can't help but nod. Whatever you want, I tell her. She smiles and hugs me, her cheek warm against mine. You don't mind apologizing to him? If that's what you want. He's very upset, you know. You really hurt his feelings. I didn't mean to. Umma stands up and takes my hand, leading me out into the living room. The marks on my wrist where George grabbed me are faint but still visible. Honey, she calls out, Ji-won has something she wants to tell you. George turns away from the TV to look at us. I imagine myself growing larger and larger, filling up the entire room like Alice in Wonderland after she eats the cake. I want to reach down to pluck an eyeball out of his head. But in real life I am small, and he's smirking, his lips twitching upward, his eyes boring into mine. I get the sense that he knows my terrible thoughts. I'm sorry. I say it so fast that the words collide into one another. What? I can't understand you. I'm sorry, I say, louder this time. Ji-yoon is staring pointedly at the wall, and Umma is looking at George. He wipes at his sweaty face before bursting into laughter. Usually when people apologize, they have the decency to look you in the eye. That is, if they mean it, George says, still sneering. There's a piece of food stuck between his front two teeth. He knows I'm uncomfortable, the bastard, and he's enjoying every second of it. She said she's sorry, Ji-yoon says, on the verge of tears, her cheeks pink with fury. Why are you doing this? Was I talking to you, JH? I don't think so. His tone is deceivingly pleasant. I can wait all night if I have to. Just look at him, Ji-won. Get it over with. I take a deep breath and look him right in the eye. Tonight his irises are luminous. They are a more vivid, sharper shade of blue than normal. I am hypnotized, falling into them, drowning. Unni? Ji-yoon pushes past Joma and touches my back. Are you okay? I dig my fingernails into the palm of my hand. The pain brings me back to earth. I'm fine. George, I'm sorry, I say. I shouldn't have said those terrible things to you earlier. George stands up and approaches me, lifting my chin with his finger. I feel like a mosquito stuck in amber. That's better, he says, smirking. I sit on the toilet and cry. I cry until I feel like I'm going to throw up, the bathroom swimming confusingly around my head. The fan hums. There's no toilet paper on the roll. The cord of Omar's hairdryer is tangled on the floor. There's a single knock on the door, and then Ji-yoon's hushed, urgent voice comes through. "Unni, can I come in?" I don't answer. She knocks again. "Leave me alone," I say. Thankfully, she listens. I hear her footsteps disappear around the corner. I hug my knees, feeling small and stupid and powerless. My shirt sticks to my chest. The doorknob rattles. I look up in time to see it burst open. Ji-yoon standing triumphantly in the doorway, hairpin in hand. "Unni, don't cry. Do you want me to kill him?" "I'll kill him," she says. "Just tell me what you want me to do." My foolish little sister. I stand up and wipe my tears away, furious at her, at George, at everyone. What does she know? She's 15. I hate that she has to be the one to comfort me. That somewhere in the apartment my mother is snuggled up with her awful boyfriend, while Ji-yoon and I are left to pick up the pieces. "Leave me alone," I snarl. "You can't help. You can't do anything." She looks hurt. I should feel bad, but I don't. If anything, I feel better, like I've transferred some of my pain to her. 25. Thoughts of George's death start to preoccupy me. I sit at my desk and register for my classes for the winter quarter and imagine him in a car crash or a bad fall. Perhaps an unfortunate drowning in our apartment's cloudy pool where he swims laps every morning. I imagine his lifeless body, his empty gaze. Umma would be devastated, but there won't be anybody left for her to wait for. After a few months, she would move on to someone new. We would move on. Geoffrey and I are taking 2 classes together this quarter. Asian American Studies 7, Asian American Movement, and History 4C, History of Japan, per his recommendation. We text almost daily now. He sends me cat pictures and listens to me vent about George. He's ruining everything. I can't wait for his apartment to get fixed. I'm so sick of him. Ugh. I know. I wish there was some way I could help you. You are, by listening to me talk shit every day, haha. It doesn't feel like enough when you're struggling so much, though. It is. I appreciate you so much. You're a good friend. Lol, anytime. I exit from our chat and accidentally click on another thread. My stomach drops. It's the group chat between Jenny, Sarah, Hanbiol, and me. The one that has been completely silent since Thanksgiving break. I read through the messages, ignoring the agony I feel, and press the delete button. The entire thing disappears. Gone. Poof. I don't need them. I have Joffrey now. George walks in, keys jingling in his hands. He's returning from a meeting with a client, and he's wearing a suit with a shiny black pair of Oxfords, which he doesn't bother removing before lumbering onto the carpet. Amma has told him a dozen times not to wear shoes inside the apartment, but he does it anyway. Because of him, the carpet by the door is stained black. He doesn't acknowledge me. Since the night of the apology, he has been unfriendly. Not that I mind. Grunting, he walks into Amma's bedroom. He sounds like a pig. He is a pig. As soon as his back is turned, I envision myself driving a knife into his neck.